At 9:30, WPAT Patterson.
With Joe Franklin right here on WPAT.
The same as Al Jolson had many proteges. I've had a discovery named Bronwyn Rucker. I had a great thrill of introducing her the other night at the Metropolitan Room where they had a turn-away crowd, and her husband is Rick Russo is with us here, and I had the double honor of appearing on a CD with her, and I just brought you one of her CDs, and maybe you'll let the world know she's got these CDs which are selling like hotcakes. And maybe if you got a minute, you'll play one little touch of Bronwyn Rucker.
Let's play it right here on WPAT for Joe Franklin.
One happy beat you won me from the start, and I've listened to you hear my way say, honey, but you know how much I love you. Honey, but I'm always thinking of you. For every time just as sweet as you can be. When I touch your ruby lips, your kisses thrill me through and through. You're the sweetest in the land. When I hold your hand, it's grand. And honey bunch of powder, hunt you love me too. Gosh, oh gee, goodness me, honey, please, can't you see you thrill?
What a voice, huh, Joe? What a nice lady.
I would say she's a lady to watch in the year 2010. She packs them in. You know, not many people have that kind of a personal following in their appearances. And Teddy's been such a kick. And I would always ask my guests at the end for something inspirational, some little maxim, something. And I would remember what Eddie Cantor said to me, which has been picked up now by many people. Eddie said to me, it's nice to be important, but it's more important to be nice. And you're a nice man. When I was a kid, Teddy, I'll tell you, I was your #1 fan. That's just
you're my #1 fan, Joe.
Like Teddy Smith, and I've made the grade.
Just a couple more questions. A follow-up question about the stars that you discovered. Do they come back and they say thank you for all you've done for them over the years? Some of them do, right?
Most of them don't. But I've had the pleasure of knowing them when they were down and out, and I've got no regrets. It's just that the ones who come back, Tony Bennett comes back, and a few like that come back. Bronwyn Rucker comes back. Rich Weinstein and Rick Russo.
Did you have any reflections, Joe, of the Academy Awards?
I thought it was well done. I thought it was. I miss. You got to remember Bob Hope. I've seen that show for 30 years. Johnny Carson for 15 years. So those are tough acts to follow. Oh, I wish they'd bring back Billy Crystal. Billy Crystal, the first day he was 4 years on Saturday Night Live. First time I saw Billy Crystal as me. You know what I said?
What'd you say?
I said, one of us is lousy. So I enjoyed the Academy. I like the part about the in memoriam kind of sad they left out Farrah Fawcett. I thought people should have been mentioned in that in the memoriam segment, but it was a very good show.
Now, you have the memory lane we want to just briefly talk about. How did that phrase, memory lane, come into being?
Well, my first guest ever was a lady named Fanny Hurst, who wrote many, many books like Backstreet, Imitation of Life. And so she took me to her apartment at the hotel with Des Artis, had coffee with her. And one of the books I pulled down from the shelf was called Lummox. And I noticed that chapter 1 was called A Long Bunch of Memory Lanes. I said, Miss Hurst, can I borrow that phrase? She said, yeah, you use it, Joe. So I called my show Joe Frank's Memory Lane. Within 6 months, there were about 25 memory lanes. So Alan Freed's Memory Lane, Murray Kaufman's Memory Lane. So I sort of set the trend with that phrase, memory lane.
Now, since you've written over 20 successful books over the years, what was your book like with Marilyn Monroe? That was a very special event.
It was a very special book called The Marilyn Monroe Story by Joe Franklin. Sold recently for, what was it, $8,500 on eBay, because the publisher died the same week that it came out, so not that many copies got into the public's hands. But then I wrote joke books and food books and recipe books and classics of the silent screen, which sold 1 million copies, by the way. And I wrote my new one's called Joe Frankel's Great Entertainment Trivia Quiz, which is doing big. We should have done some trivia tonight. We'll do it maybe next time.
Love to.
And I wrote one called Up Late with Joe Franklin about the big stars, the has-beens, the never was, never will be's, and Rich, you
like that trivia book, don't you? It's a great book.
Yeah, Joe, in the Lieutenant Columbo series that stars Peter Falk, who was the person that they wanted to play Lieutenant Columbo prior to Peter Falk being chosen for that role?
That was Bing Crosby.
Very good, Joe. Very good.
Whoa.
When the Moon Comes Over the Mountain was the theme song for
Kate Smith.
Oh, you're great. Here's a real tough one. Chuck Connor starred in The Rifleman, but what did he do for a living before he became the rifleman and an actor into show business?
Guess what? I have no idea.
He played for the Brooklyn Dodgers and the Chicago Cubs. And right here, Joe, I'd like to make a special presentation that we have for Ted Smith. This Ted is from the New York Veteran Police Association. Al Kaplan is a trustee with us. So is Arnold Martin, and Joe Franklin is on the list also. And this is America's largest and oldest police organization, started in 1891. And we want to thank you for all your public service, everything that you do for us.
Thank you very much.
And we appreciate you doing
God bless
fantastic
you.
job.
God bless you, Jim. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. With this card, you'll be out of jail when your time is up.
Thanks, Jimmy. Okay. Good to see you. Thank you very much, everybody. And just a few brief final questions. I just wanted to know what your take is on, or actually what you miss from the good old days of either radio, TV, show business.
Well, what I miss is the fact that we did our own bookings, we did our own guests. I never had a talent coordinator. I just chose my own people. Nobody told me what to say. Nobody told me what to do. And I was kind of shy. There were such people that I wanted on my show, but they just scared me. I mean, Groucho Marx looked kind of mean. Fred Allen looked kind of mean. People like George S. Kaufman and people, Bert Lahr, and in every single case, I found out after they died, they were already waiting to be invited onto the Joe Franklin show. I was so, I was just ashamed. I was afraid to approach them. So I don't know how I got into that, but I just want to let people know: don't be shy, be aggressive. Every time you got a big guest, they'll tell you what you must not do. When Shirley Temple was on, don't talk about old movies, or she'll get up and walk away. She wants to talk about air pollution, women's rights, appeal reform, United Nations, Girl Scout cookies. But I did a whole hour and a half on the old movies, despite the warnings. And she was so happy she went back to California and started doing her old scrapbooks. When I had on Jane Wyman, don't mention Ronald Reagan. She don't want to talk about they had a very unhappy divorce. But how can I not talk about the president? I did an hour and a half talking about Ronald Reagan. She loved it. So you got to just be a little bit defiant and don't always listen to the retinue when you must not talk about.
What was it like interviewing some of these presidents? Any moment that you have?
Well, nice. Richard Nixon was charming. He became a dear friend of mine. I used to come from Saddle River to sit in my studio audience and watch my show. Late watch me doing broadcasting. I did Jimmy Carter. I had them all. I didn't have Abraham Lincoln, but I go way back.
Speaking of radio today and yesterday, what do you think of radio today and yesterday, and also of television?
Well, I was told when I broke into radio on the local station, there was Joe, wait 5 seconds after the record ends until you speak. Today, of course, they overlap. They talk while the record is ending. So I guess it's all for the better. It's here to stay. It's improved.
And one of my final questions to you: in your opinion, what are the elements that make a good talk show host? What is it all about?
I would say keep looking in the person's eyes. Number one, get the book plug out of the way fast. If you don't get he's always afraid the program manager is not going to plug the book. Get the plug out of the way fast, and then look in his eyes. Don't look into his nose or his belly button or something. Because then the guy figures you're not really paying attention. If you look in the eyes, the man figures you are paying attention, and just don't let him think that you're always looking down at the paper. Look at the next question. Just ad lib it. I never read the whole book in my life. I would look at the back cover, maybe a few pages. I would try to ask. I mean, if you go to a restaurant and have dinner, you don't prepare the conversation in advance. You just let it flow, and I let it flow without all that pre-preparation, and it held for 43 years.
Who inspired you in your life, or some reflections about someone?
I would say Johnny Carson was still with King up until the very end, and I used to like Merv Griffin. I used to like Mike Doug. Somebody they were watching TV the other night, a talk show tribute on Channel 13. They saw Jack Parr. They saw Mike Douglas, so Mark Rivers, or Johnny Carson. They said, but no Joe Franklin. Do you know what I said? I said, they were all dead. I'm still walking and talking. You good answer, Teddy, right?
That's the best one I've heard. The best ever.
Can't knock that, right?
Is it an art being a disc jockey or a talk show host, TV or radio? Is it an art? Is it some natural ability that someone has? Well, I mean, there are many people who can be talk show hosts, but what is it that they can bring out?
That's a really intelligent question. It's the same as in acting. You got to be, anybody can do technique and be taught how to do lines, but it's got to be something inborn. You got to have that inborn curiosity. You got to have that knowledge of knowing how to smile, and even if you're bored by the guest, don't show that you're bored. Keep the excitement flowing.
Final question, Randy, one or two. This should do it. What is your advice to those people who want to make a career in show business today?
I would say that in acting, go to acting school. Be persistent, be consistent. Don't have to be exactly like Betty Davis. They can step over dead bodies to get the part, but you got to be driven, got to be obsessed and possessed. But so far as talk shows, with all these opening on channels all the time, they'll be needing a new talking head. So if you want to pursue a talk show career, I would say stick with it and keep trying until you get your own talk show. There'll be a big need in the future. I mean, every time you read the paper, there's a new talk show. Rosie O'Donnell wants to come back. They don't want to come back. So there'll always be a market for talk show hosts.
Final moments or reflections for Joe Franklin as we wrap up the interview. There's some things that come to mind during this interview, or things in your life that you'd like to relate here at this moment.
The moment is that I'd rather remain gratified and happy that I made a lot of people aware of the world around them, and books and old movies and old radio shows. And I mean, you talk about what's current in sales. They tell me that 1/3 of every dollar spent on entertainment today goes toward nostalgia. The big selling movies are still Gone with the Wind and Citizen Kane and Casablanca and Over the Rainbow. What's the movie with Judy Garland, the famous one? Wizard of Oz, right? And the big record compilations of Nat King Cole, the #1 seller all over the world still. Fred Astaire, Bing Crosby, Dick Clark. And the marketplace is booming for the good old days, which are not forgotten.
What was it like having Mickey Rooney on your show?
I had him on many, many times. I said, a little money, you owe me some money. He said, I'm a little short right now. Mickey is a very dear friend. And his wife. And he's had many, many wives. It says on his marriage certificate, to whom it may concern.
Judy Garland.
Judy Garland. Well, I guess one of the top singers of all time. Be a toss-up between Barbra Streisand and Judy Garland. Judy came to my studio, as Richie said, with Liza Minnelli, and that was a very highlight moment in my life.
Well, you've been a highlight in my life, too, and I want to thank you so dearly for coming down here with Richie. It's only just begun, right? Karen Carver?
Do invite me back.
Thanks, Joe Franklin, with Teddy Smith, Richie Orenstein, Rick Russo, and, of course, we have Walter Gollander and Jimmy Petrecca and all of everyone's Joe's fans out here. Bob O'Brien, Mr. Bobby O'Brien, who's had to work tonight, but he's going to be back next week, and it's always good to see him. He's a wonderful man, Bob O'Brien. John Luke.
Claritone, second to none. And
great cabaret man.
That's right. I've seen his act many times, and he packs them in.
Michael Ellenbogen, all the people here at WPAT. I want to thank you again, Joe, for coming down tonight and sharing some of your great experiences, moments, and reflections with Teddy Smith here.
We'll do part 2 whenever you're ready, Teddy.
I'm looking forward to it. God bless you.
Great, Teddy.
Have a great weekend, and that's great. Thanks for being here. Thank you.